Horse-drawn buggies rolling past smartphones, children in bonnets and suspenders walking to one-room schoolhouses, families gathered around wooden tables, heads bowed in prayer before a meal they grew themselves. The Amish seem frozen in time, a living museum of 18th century simplicity existing somehow in modern America. Harmless, quaint, a tourist attraction. That's the image. And for most Americans, that's where the thinking stops. But here's what nobody's talking about. The Amish population has grown from roughly 5,000 people in 1900 to over 410,000 today. That's an 82-fold increase. They've more than doubled just since the year 2000, and at their current growth rate, demographers project they'll hit 1 million by the 2050s and could reach 7 million by the end of this century. This isn't some fringe prediction. This is peer-reviewed demographic science. And when a community that rejects modern education, carries no health insurance, is exempt from Social Security taxes, and holds genetic profiles unlike any other population in America, grows from a curiosity to potentially 1% of the entire country, the implications are staggering. This is the demographic time bomb hiding in plain sight in rural America, and almost nobody is preparing for what happens when it goes off. Let's start with the numbers, because the numbers are what make this story impossible to ignore. According to the Young Center for Anabaptist and Pietist Studies at Elizabethtown College, which is the definitive academic authority on Amish demographics, the population trajectory looks like this. In 1900, approximately 5,000 Amish lived in just 8 states. By 1950, that had grown to around 30,000. In the year 2000, the population stood at roughly 178,000, spread across 311 settlements. Today, in 2025, the official count is 410,955 people living in 684 settlements across 32 states. That's a 131% increase since the turn of the millennium. During that same period, the total United States population grew by only 19%. Professor Joseph Donnermeyer of Ohio State University published the definitive quantitative analysis of Amish growth in the Journal of Amish and Plain Anabaptist Studies. He calculated their doubling time at 20.25 years, which translates to roughly 3.5% annual population growth. In his words, that's a fabulous percentage of increase. I don't know if there's another faith group in the United States with so big a population with a lower doubling time. To put this in perspective, the Amish added 233,000 people in 25 years. They're not just growing, they're exploding, and the explosion isn't slowing down. So, what's driving this? The answer comes down to 2 factors, and understanding them reveals why this growth is essentially locked in for decades to come. The first factor is family size. A landmark 2025 study published in Population Studies analyzed a database of over 50,000 Amish households. The researchers found a total fertility rate of 6.1 children per woman. Meanwhile, the United States national fertility rate just hit an all-time low of 1.599 in 2024, according to CDC data. Let that comparison sink in. Amish women are having nearly 4 times as many children as the average American woman, and they're starting young. The median age of marriage for Amish women is 20.9 years old, and 87% marry by age 50. The average time between marriage and first birth is just 17 months. Family size also varies dramatically across the more than 40 different Amish affiliations. Mainstream Old Order families average about 6 children. But the most conservative group, the Swartz and Truber Amish, average a remarkable 10.42 children per family. In a survey of Holmes County, Ohio, over 3/4 of Amish respondents strongly disagreed with the use of birth control. Children are viewed as blessings from God, and family size is left entirely to divine will. The second factor is retention. This is where the math gets really interesting. About 85 to 90% of Amish-raised youth ultimately choose baptism into the church as adults. That's dramatically higher than the below 60% retention rates seen in the 1960s. Researchers credit the shift to Amish-run parochial schools following the 1972 Wisconsin versus Yoder Supreme Court decision, which we'll get to later. Stephen Nolt, director of the Young Center, summarizes it simply. There are 2 explanatory factors. One is large families, and the second is high retention rates. Here's what makes this combination so powerful. When you have 6 children per family, and 85% of them stay in the community and go on to have 6 children of their own, you get exponential growth that feeds on itself. The community doesn't need a single convert from the outside world, and in fact, virtually no outsiders successfully join. Researchers estimate fewer than 100 people have converted to and remained Amish since 1950. Now you might be thinking about Rumspringa, that period of teenage rebellion that reality TV loves to dramatize. Wild parties, drugs, exposure to the modern world. Surely that causes young people to leave. Actually, the popular image is largely a media fabrication. Donald Craybill, Karen Johnson Weiner, and Stephen Nolt debunked this in their definitive 2013 book, The Amish. They wrote, "Some pundits say the church has established a cultural timeout for that purpose, but this is simply false. For most Amish youth, Rumspringa involves attending singings, socializing, and courtship. Only an estimated 10 to 20% engage in notably rebellious behavior. The Amish don't need to lock their children in. They've built a community so cohesive, so economically self-sufficient, and so psychologically complete that 9 out of 10 young people look at the outside world and choose to stay." But the Amish aren't just growing in population, they're spreading geographically at an astonishing rate. In 1900, the Amish lived in just 8 states. Today, they occupy 32. In peak years, a new Amish settlement forms roughly every 10 days. In 2024 alone, 46 new settlements were established with 0 dissolutions. That's only the 4th time this century that no Amish community failed. The top 3 states remain Pennsylvania with 95,000 Amish, Ohio with 86,000, and Indiana with 67,000. Combined, these 3 states hold about 61% of all Amish in America. But the frontier growth is where the real story lies. New York's Amish population has quadrupled since 2000, jumping from 4,500 to over 25,000. West Virginia grew from 3 settlements to 14 between 2015 and 2024, a 367% increase. Wyoming went from 1 settlement to 5. Montana jumped from 4 to 13. Virginia surged from 6 to 16. 6 entirely new states gained Amish populations since the year 2000. Colorado, Nebraska, South Dakota, Vermont, Wyoming, and most recently New Mexico in 2020. What's driving this expansion? The answer is land prices. Lancaster County farmland now sells for $30,000 to $60,000 or more per acre, compared to $8,000 just 30 years ago. Donald Craybill estimates it would cost $2 million for a young Amish couple to set up a farming operation there today. So families are migrating to Wisconsin, Kentucky, Missouri, and Montana, where land can still be found for $2,000 to $5,000 per acre. Stephen Nolt explains the migration pattern. Amish people are a communal culture. Amish families don't just strike out on their own as an individual household, they're always moving in groups. The heartlands function as source communities, generating daughter settlements across the country while still growing internally through sheer birth rates. Now let's talk about what happens when you project these numbers forward, because this is where the story starts to feel like science fiction. Using Professor Donnermeyer's peer-reviewed 21.25-year doubling time, the projection shows approximately 912,000 Amish by 2050. At their more recent growth rate, they'll likely cross 1 million in the mid-2500s. Extrapolating further, with appropriate scientific caveats, estimates for 2100 range from 3.5 million at a conservative 2.5% annual growth rate to 7 million at their current 3.5% rate. Even the conservative end would represent roughly 1% of the projected U.S. population. For comparison, the only religious group in America with a remotely similar demographic profile is the Haredi ultra-Orthodox Jewish community, which numbers approximately 700,000 with a total fertility rate of about 6.6 and a doubling time of 18 to 20 years. Mormons, often perceived as fast-growing, have a fertility rate of only 2.8 and are actually losing population share relative to the country. The Amish and Haredi stand essentially alone as high-fertility, high-retention religious communities in America, and both are on trajectories that will reshape the regions where they concentrate. In Holmes County, Ohio, the Amish may become a population majority within a decade. Think about what that means for local governance, for school boards, for zoning decisions, for the character of an entire region. But before we get to those implications, we need to talk about something most people have never heard of: the genetic time bomb ticking inside this rapidly growing community. Nearly all Amish descend from approximately 200 to 500 Swiss German founders who immigrated to America in the 1720s. Strict endogamy, meaning marriage only within the faith, combined with virtually zero outside conversion over 300 years, has created a pronounced founder effect. Certain rare genetic variants that would normally stay extremely rare have been amplified to unusually high frequencies. Different settlements have different genetic profiles because they descended from different founding families, but the overall pattern is clear. The Amish carry genetic disorders at rates seen almost nowhere else in the modern world. Disorders significantly more common among the Amish include Ellis Van Creveld syndrome, a form of dwarfism with extra fingers that's literally a textbook example of founder effect genetics; maple syrup urine disease, which was once almost always fatal in infancy; glutaric aciduria type 1, which was once misdiagnosed as Amish cerebral palsy; Troyer syndrome, and Amish lethal microcephaly, conditions essentially unique to Amish populations. In one Ontario Amish community, the carrier frequency for nephropathic cystinosis is 1 in 6. In the general population, it is 1 in 150. That's 25 times higher. A 2023 study in molecular psychiatry identified chromosomal regions that double or triple mood disorder risk in Old Order Amish populations. The response to this genetic crisis has been remarkable and largely unknown to the outside world. The Clinic for Special Children in Strasburg, Pennsylvania, was founded in 1989 by Dr. Holmes Morton, who later won a MacArthur Genius Grant for his work. Operating on just $1.5 million annually, largely funded by Amish auctions and donations, the clinic treats approximately 1,700 active patients with more than 480 unique genetic mutations. They can perform genetic diagnosis in just 40 minutes for known mutations. The clinic estimates it has saved Amish communities $20 to $25 million in aggregate medical costs. A similar facility, the DDC Clinic for Special Needs Children, opened in Middlefield, Ohio, to serve the large Amish population there. Intriguingly, the Amish genetic profile also confers certain protective advantages. Cancer rates among Amish are 60% of the age-adjusted rate for Ohio and 56% of the national rate. Asthma prevalence is remarkably low, just 5.2% in Indiana Amish children compared to 21.3% in comparable Hutterite children, likely due to immune benefits from farm environments. But these advantages don't change the fundamental challenge. A rapidly growing population with limited genetic diversity and virtually no genetic inflow will continue to see these rare conditions at elevated rates. And as the population grows from hundreds of thousands to millions, the absolute numbers of affected individuals will scale accordingly. Now we need to talk about healthcare more broadly, because this is where Amish population growth creates direct friction with American public health systems. The vast majority of Amish carry no health insurance. They're exempt from the Affordable Care Act individual mandate. About 2/3 of Lancaster County Amish participate in something called Amish Hospital Aid, which is an informal cost-sharing plan within the community for catastrophic medical expenses. Medical bills are typically paid in cash, often negotiated at significantly lower rates. This system works when you're a small, tight-knit community, but it creates serious public health challenges as the population scales. Vaccination rates are critically low. A survey of 252 Amish women in Ohio found only 1.7% were willing to receive a COVID-19 vaccine. A Penn State University study found that counties with significant Amish populations had COVID vaccination rates 1.6 percentage points lower than comparable counties. Low vaccination has already caused outbreaks. In 2014, a measles outbreak in Ohio affected hundreds, concentrated in Amish communities. These aren't just internal community problems. Disease doesn't respect religious boundaries. The Amish relationship with modern medicine is complicated. They're not opposed to healthcare on religious grounds. Many will use hospitals for serious conditions, especially emergencies. But distrust of government recommendations, reliance on traditional remedies, and the isolation of their communities creates a patchwork approach that becomes increasingly problematic at scale. Education represents another fundamental point of friction. Under the 1972 Wisconsin versus Yoder Supreme Court ruling, Amish children are exempt from compulsory education beyond the 8th grade. The court found that requiring Amish teenagers to attend high school would endanger, if not destroy, the free exercise of Amish religious beliefs. This ruling was decided when the Amish numbered perhaps 100,000. It was designed for a tiny, isolated community that wanted to be left alone. What happens when that community numbers in the millions? For those who leave, the 8th grade education creates enormous barriers. They must obtain a GED, navigate college financial aid systems that require parental income disclosure until age 24, and bridge enormous gaps in knowledge of mainstream society. Many report feeling like immigrants in their own country. Justice William O. Douglas wrote a partial dissent in Yoder that feels prophetic today. It is the student's judgment, not his parents', that is essential, he argued. The child has an independent right to education that the parents' religious beliefs cannot simply override. When 10 to 15% of a growing population faces these barriers upon leaving, the cumulative human cost is significant. And as the absolute numbers grow, so does that cost. Now let's talk about economic impact, because this cuts both ways. On the positive side, Amish communities are increasingly economic powerhouses. A study of 67 Pennsylvania counties found that Amish presence had a significant positive effect on per capita incomes. Holmes County, Ohio, which is roughly 50% Amish, saw average household income for young adults from lower-income homes rise 24% from 2005 to 2019. Ohio State economist Mark Partridge credits what he calls an extreme networking effect among Amish businesses. These businesses have an estimated 95% or higher success rate attributed to community cooperation, low overhead costs, and minimal debt. The Amish have undergone a massive occupational transformation. In the mid-20th century, over 90% farmed. Today, only about 1/3 of Amish men under 65 farm. The rest run furniture shops, construction companies, metalworking operations, and manufacturing businesses. Holmes County's Hardwood Furniture Guild alone has 177 member companies, many Amish-owned. But on the negative side, Amish land purchases are driving prices beyond what non-Amish farmers can afford. In Carroll County, Maryland, Amish buyers from Lancaster have pushed prices from around $10,000 per acre to over $20,000. Local farmer Carriage Mace told reporters, "We've basically been priced out of the market." In Lancaster County itself, the Amish hold title to approximately 110,000 acres of farmland, representing 28.7% of all agricultural land in the county. Their share of farm purchases has risen to nearly 34% of all transactions. Tax implications add another layer of complexity. Under Internal Revenue Code Section 1402G, enacted in 1965, self-employed Amish can claim exemption from Social Security and Medicare taxes by filing IRS Form 4029, which means they waive all benefits from those programs. A 1988 extension covered Amish employees of Amish-owned businesses. However, Amish working for non-Amish employers must pay FICA taxes for benefits their religion prohibits them from ever claiming. The National Taxpayer Advocate has called this situation inequitable. The Amish do pay federal and state income taxes, property taxes, and sales taxes. They pay school taxes that fund public schools they don't use. But the Social Security exemption represents a substantial financial advantage that grows more significant as their population and economic footprint expand. There are also emerging environmental and safety concerns that scale with population. Amish partnerships with JBS Foods, the beef giant, have created large-scale cattle operations in Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana. These operations produce an estimated 7 million pounds of manure daily. Local residents have complained about water quality and odor issues. Road safety is another growing concern. Ohio recorded over 700 buggy-related accidents on state routes from 2009 to 2018, resulting in 15 fatalities. As Amish populations expand into areas with faster traffic patterns, these conflicts will likely increase. The puppy mill controversy continues to generate negative attention. Holmes County, Ohio, has 470 licensed kennels, more than any other county in the entire nation. Lancaster County has 243 licensed kennels, and 98% of them are Amish-owned. Animal welfare advocates have long criticized conditions at some of these operations. None of these issues are necessarily unique to the Amish, but they all scale with population, and the population is scaling fast. Political influence remains minimal for now, rooted in Anabaptist two-kingdom theology that emphasizes separation of church and state. Typically, fewer than 10% of eligible Amish vote in any given election. When they do vote, they vote approximately 95% Republican, aligning with GOP positions on religious liberty and social conservatism. COVID-19 restrictions drove a notable spike in 2020 turnout. About 2,940 voted in Lancaster County alone, roughly one-fifth of eligible voters. But researchers Kyle Kopko and Stephen Nolt found that claims of massive Amish turnout swinging the election were hyperbole. Still, the math is inescapable. In Holmes County, Ohio, the Amish may constitute a population majority within a decade. What happens to local governance when a community that largely rejects participation in modern institutions becomes the dominant demographic? Nobody has good answers because nobody is asking the question. So what's the bigger picture here? What does all of this actually mean? The policy frameworks governing Amish exemptions were designed for a tiny, isolated population that wanted nothing more than to be left alone. The 1965 Social Security exemption, the 1972 education exemption, the healthcare mandate exemption. All of these made sense for 100,000 or 200,000 people concentrated in a few rural counties. Can they scale to 1 million, to 3 million, to 7 million? A community of 400,000 can exist largely below the radar of national attention. A community of 3.5 million cannot. That's larger than 21 individual U.S. states. That's a demographic block with real political and economic weight, whether they choose to exercise it or not. Researchers do caution that these projections assume stable retention rates, and smartphones may pose an unprecedented threat to that stability. Richard Stevick of Messiah University warns, "The ones that are in the greatest danger of leaving are the ones that carry phones, because it opens up so many possibilities of understanding the world outside of their tradition." Historical precedent also exists for catastrophic population loss. In the late 1800s, progressive trends reduced the Old Order Amish to just 5,000 by 1900. A similar liberalization could theoretically occur again. But the most conservative affiliations, the ones most resistant to technology and outside influence, are growing fastest. The Schwarzentreuber Amish averaging over 10 children per family will constitute an increasing share of the total population. As Stephen Nolt observes, in 20 or 40 years, we could see a slightly different composition of the Amish world, where the more conservative slices make up a larger portion of the pie. The Amish of 2060 may be more traditional, not less. More isolated, not less. More resistant to integration, not less. This isn't about judging the Amish way of life. They have every right to live according to their beliefs, to raise large families, to maintain their traditions. The question is whether American society has thought through what it means for a community with these particular characteristics to grow from a curiosity to a significant national minority. The answer, clearly, is no. The horse-drawn buggies will keep rolling. The children in bonnets and suspenders will keep walking to one-room schoolhouses. The families will keep gathering around wooden tables for meals they grew themselves. And every 20 years, there will be twice as many of them. If you found this eye-opening, subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden trends shaping America. I cover demographics, culture, and the stories mainstream media misses every week. The next video on screen explores another community with explosive growth that's transforming American cities. Click it now.